Hello and welcome back. I'm Nicole, a cottage witch, and today I'm doing something a little different. I went to a plant study group at the university and got a tour of their herbarium, which was amazing. So now I'm making my own, and I've gone just a little bit, I've collected a lot of plants. I've started flattening them, as you can see, in some of these old, well, not too old, Wild Rose College textbooks, because they're a good size for it. But some of these plants are very, like you can see the stick of the Rhodosia dogwood here coming out. And so I just did these last night so they wouldn't start drying in funny positions. But I'm going to take out these flatter leaves so they don't end up curved over the shape of the stem, if that makes sense. These ones, I'm going to move these ones into a different book and just show you sort of what I've done with my plants. And I've got some I collected. So I went on a plant rescue last weekend. Well, I've gone on several. And so there's a group that, yeah, these are still very, very soft. Some of the main waters come up into the page, you can see, but they're still very malleable. Anyway, I went on a plant rescue the other day with a group that goes out before an area is quote unquote developed, meaning of course bulldozed and paved and turned into a suburb, and collected a bunch of plants and seeds, some of them for my balcony, some for ecological restoration groups, and that was really fun. But then last time I collected some, which I'll show you later, for my own mini herbarium.
Editing me here to add that I didn't really explain what a herbarium is. It's basically a plant archive. They have these sheets where you have plant material from all over the world. The university in Calgary has about 130,000, I think, but the biggest ones have millions of these. And some of them from the mid-1800s, I think. Darwin, he was one of the first to do these. No, he wasn't the first, but he was early days. And so you can store all sorts of plant material in these basically plant archives. And you can see here, like the algae. That's an algae. Isn't that so cool? And this is a really old tree from BC. And then you basically have these individual sheets of so many plants that you can study. This was just on the wall, and then this was one of the carrying cases that these people used to use to collect plants. So back to the video.
So it's really simple to make, and I'll show you the sample one I've made so far later. But the first thing, of course, is to press all these plants. So this is some horsetail. So you can see all of these plants I've gotten in the fall now, which means some of them are easier to press than others because some of them have crispy bits. That one I'm going to leave on there. Oop, that's a bit sticky. Oh well. Oh, it's gone all the way through. Well, good for it, I guess. There's some. I actually switch pages a little bit so that it doesn't get too, it's really dry where I live, so it probably wouldn't get too moist on the pages, but just in case, I'll divide things up a little bit more. There's some juniper, little birch twig, the box elder. Maple is going to go in this other book. Oh yeah, I took an aster. I forgot about that. I was looking for ones that didn't have any seeds left, and I didn't take the roots because they are native wildflowers that are supposed to be there, and there aren't tons of them. There are enough that I felt like I could take one, but you know, there's not an overabundance, so I didn't want to overdo it. So that's one of these little books. That's anatomy and physiology, apparently. And I'll stick some more books back on that. This is lilac. It is all falling apart. I'm just going to gently shake it off and see if I can get some of these bits out of the way here, because that's a bit of making a bit of a mess. Oh well, that's what vacuum cleaners are for. If this gets very slow and boring, I may speed it up and just show you later the final results. But this is the red osier dogwood, which I'm actually also going to put on a separate page, just so it has a little more room. Isn't the stem so beautiful? I love it. The leaves are pretty too. It is a little tricky getting these in the fall when the leaves are all starting to turn colors, because they're pretty, but they're also a bit crispy. This is bearberry, which makes a beautiful herbal tea that I use a lot for path working. Anything else in here? Ooh, hawthorn. Love hawthorn. Tansy, which I like, but it is technically an invasive plant, so I don't mind. That must be from the, what is that from? Box elder maple, maybe? So I don't mind taking some because it's not really supposed to be here. Poplar buds. I do like poplar buds, even if they made a mess of this other book here. They make a very good mussel salve. So what is this going on here? I'll take that out. I did try and get, as you can see, some of the leaves backwards so that you can see the underside. Because I've got a little hand lens now that like jewelers have. They're very cheap. They're like $10 or $15 on Amazon. Just slide these apart. Put this one on its own page. This is cotton Easter, also invasive. People use it for hedges. They really shouldn't, but they do. But I don't know if this is going to work very well because this thing is huge. I have to make the seeds again. Questionable procedure here. It's a very fun book, but it's giant, which is good because I can have these two. Yeah, these are good. They need to be changed out. So in this book, I actually put just pages of paper. This is the buffalo berry. So today I'm actually going to go for a walk and hopefully get some more fresher seeds, buffalo berry leaves, because as you can see I cut off the top ones to get them to fit here. But that's the root system, which is pretty cool. And it is supposed to be here. So it's the plant that I think should replace cotton Easter in people's hedges because it's very similar and like has a similar growing pattern and looks very similar. So why not? And if it escapes into the wild, well, it's supposed to be here, so it's not the end of the world. All right, but I don't know where you buy, like, shopping for plants is such a weird venture because almost none of the ones you can get at places like Home Depot or whatever, like those types of nurseries are native. Drives me nuts. Anyway, this is a little trembling aspen. So at the rescue site, there was a little trembling aspen grove, part of which they're actually going to transplant. They're going to get a big tree mover shovel thing. I don't actually know what they're called, but it's a machine that has a giant shovel on the end. They can uproot trees, and they're going to move part of the aspen grove onto the grounds of what's going to be a new school. So the kids will have a little aspen grove, which is amazing. I do love aspens. They're phenomenal trees. This is northern bedstraw with a little bit of its root system. It's related to cleavers, if you're into herbalism. It's in the same genus. But this is what it looks like in the fall, which is pretty cool. And this is fringed sagebrush. Look at that, isn't that pretty? It's so soft and feathery. I love it. Also, transplants like a dream. Like, nothing phases this. I didn't get enough of the root for these little bits, so I didn't transplant them. But honestly, they just, nothing phases these little guys. You pop them out of one area and into another, and they're like, okay, cool, this is our new home now. And they don't even blink, which I've never had happen with any plants other than their cousin, the prairie sagebrush, which I don't think I have in this book because I didn't find any on the rescue site the other day. But it's actually what indigenous people around here used instead of white sage. White sage is very California, but white prairie sagebrush, which is in the Artemisia family, is very northern prairies. So what is this? This will be, what is this? At first I thought it was chokecherry, but it's got little toothed edges on the leaves, so I'll have to look into that. This is a wild strawberry. Look at that. Isn't that cool? With the little runners and everything. That is very much supposed to be here. This is a very mushed raspberry that I had trouble. Mostly this is just for the stem and the way the leaves connect, because the leaves were starting to get crinkled and wouldn't flatten out for me. So, oh well, I'll try this again in the spring, this whole venture. This is wild mint. There is it's called a wild American mint sometimes, but it's native to Canada. There we go. And you can see this root thing, I don't know what this part is called, runner type thing where the roots come then underground. And this one I'm not sure about. This is either rough hedge nettle or swampy skullcap, marshy skullcap, but I couldn't, the app kept giving me one or the other, and so I'll have to, once I put it on a page, I'll have to just sit down and figure out which it actually is. But it's in the mint family for sure. And then oh, I did get some prairie sagebrush here. I forgot about this. So the roots are slightly intertwined, as will happen. But these leaves are very little. Some of them can get quite long when they're like that, you know. When they're mature, they can be about that long. So that's pretty cool. Here's a couple more. These won't entirely fit on the paper, so I'll probably have to cut them in half when I mount them onto the cardstock, because the cardstock is just 8.5 by 11. So, but I thought I'd press them as one and then have a look later. Isn't that cool? These leaves near the base were starting to die back a little bit. Here's a little bit more of the fringed one. Oops. With a bit of a inflorescence, I believe it's called. Is that what that's called when the flower? Oh, it's so soft though. It's amazing. And so like that sort of, it's got a sheen to it. I don't know if you can tell. But it's a very cool plant. Whoops. Bumping the poor plants around. Sorry, dear. Now, come on. There we go. There's another baby one. Yep. All right. So now that they're all piled under stacks of books, I'll leave them there for a couple more days, check them again for just the moisture content. and see how they're doing. The little ones that are just leaves might be ready at that point because it is really very dry here, but the other ones probably won't be, so I'm not sure how long it'll take. But anyway, let's look at some seeds now. So these are some seeds that I bought. Blue elder, which is debated, but this one puts it as a subspecies of black elder, which works for me. Sunflower and cow parsnip, which don't touch this without gloves. You can get burns. So I'm gonna plant these pretty soon here, actually maybe today, because we have gotten our first hard frost. Finally. It's been, what is it, mid-October now, and usually we have our first frost in the beginning of September. We've had a slight frost that's just nipped some things before now, but to have our first hard frost in the middle of October is absolutely wild. So I'm gonna plant these because they're not gonna germinate in this weather now, but they do need a cold period, and I don't feel like doing that in my fridge because I have a little apartment-sized fridge, and it's just too much hassle. But I am gonna scribble on here. Someday I may like type this up so it's actually legible, because this is just my scribbles. But the bigger pots have a better chance, as I understand it, of having the plant survive the winter because we get Chinooks. So if they're in a small pot and we get a Chinook and it thinks it's spring, it's going to break dormancy and then die, which is not what I want. So we'll try and see how that goes. And then I have a bunch of seeds. So these are ground cherry seeds, or ground seed pods. You can probably hear the seeds if I shake them. Wild rose seeds that I'm drying out there. And then, ooh, I've got more bits of plant all over the place. And then I got this. So these are the seeds that I collected from the plant rescue. And I haven't cleaned them or anything, so I have dried them out. I did leave them open for like a month and a half, because like the goldenrod seeds still have the fluff on them. The licorice are still in their seed pods. We have some native sunflowers, which I didn't realize, still on their seed pods there. I've got some anemone seeds. Woolly grumble is a funny plant. Golden Alexander, more sunflower pods. I didn't try and take the seeds off the pods for some things at the location because that just would have been too much trouble. Some bee balm, blazing star, which is a very pretty plant. Loco weed, also very pretty. Lots of seeds there, so hopefully some of them germinate. Blue grama, owl clover, prairie shooting star, which is also very pretty, and prairie turnips. So the turnips are the three big seeds there, and I'm really hoping one of those at least germinates. I've got some northern bedstraw seeds. That's a pretty common one around here. Blue asters are pretty common. Wave thistle is not very common. Yarrow, death camas. You can call it white camas if you want, but if you have a name like death camas, why wouldn't you go with death camas? I mean, come on. This is purple clover, which I don't think is an actual clover, but anyway, and more blazing star because it's so pretty. So these are the ones I'm going to plant, hopefully, on my balcony. I have a bunch more in a paper bag that I'm going to plant in the neighborhood, so I didn't bother sorting them one from the other. So that's my little native prairie seeds collection. A couple other quick things. At the rescue site, I collected a lot of rose hips, so those are drying now. And just in my neighborhood, I collected a lot of rowan berries and put them on a red thread that'll keep indoors throughout the winter. That's in Celtic folklore, that's supposed to be very protective. And then I forgot to mention that I did try to clean some of the seeds. It didn't work very well. So these are the seeds with the fluff still on. That they got wet. And then these are the seeds that I cleaned. But there's still a lot attached to the fluff, so I'll probably just put this outside. And then for the actual herbarium, So I cut out a couple of the cardstock. So all you really need is acid-free cardstock or paper of some sort, any acid-free paper, because the acid will turn the plant brown and start eating away at the edges. PVA glue, so it's also pH neutral, so non-acidic. And that's basically it. Those are the only two things you need. For larger stems, you can sew, like use a bit of thread and sew down the stems. I've never tried that because I'm very, very new at this. But I did, for the ones in the big book of rescued plants, I did write down all the plants that were rescued, or that not that were rescued, but that were from that site that I pressed. So I've got the 2 artemisias, northern bedstraw, buffalo berry, raspberry, wild strawberry, prickly rose, that's what it was, Rosa acularis. Oh no, this was what the other rose I couldn't remember, Rosa arkansana, chokecherry, maybe that was a chokecherry, wild mint, this is the one I'm not sure about, so I put a sticky note on there, and then just a template and a bunch of blank ones, because I haven't done these up for the plants from my garden that I pressed, or the ones from my neighborhood, but that's a for today project, I think, while I'm listening to an audiobook or something. I will do those. And then, oh, this is fun. Okay, so I got, now usually you would just store them in a folder in some sort of cabinet, but I don't have a lot of storage space, so I got a photo album, and that is green, that has a flower on the front, so that's cute. And I'm not really going to be able to show it very well, but it's basically got these giant empty pages that you can just slide things into. So I'm just going to pull this out here. Oops. Okay. Very good. This thing is so big. So yeah, that's going to be my storage solution. Plants, bits of plants everywhere. Oh wow. Okay. So then all you do is, now I'm going to use a paintbrush next time because I just dipped out some of the glue and stuck the plants down. But you don't have a lot of control over how much glue comes out for that. So I'm going to try using a paintbrush on the back of some of the plants next time and see if that works better. But you can see it's good enough even to stick down the stems. And so everything is good and attached. And then I got this little hand lens, which is only like $10 or $15 on Amazon, cheaper in the US. It's got 2 magnifications, 30 and 60, and it's got these little lights, one for each side of the lens, to help see what you're doing if you're looking at things and the lighting's not amazing. And then you just zoom in real close like you're in one of those movies where they examine diamonds or something. I don't know. I have watched a few people show you how to attach leaves, and you do want to make sure, and I did this badly on, I think this chokecherry, you don't want to get glue on the front because then you're looking at the glue and not the leaf. But you want to get enough glue, like this one doesn't have glue along the edges, so it might be more likely to come up eventually. And the tip of this one doesn't have any, so that's where I think the paintbrush might be a better solution. But this was my test page. And I'll probably do one more test page. But then what you'd do is you'd leave enough space in the bottom corner and just glue the label on as well. And then arrange your plant and glue it down. And then you've got a herbarium page, and you can zoom in on it and identify the different plants. And yeah. So one of the books that's coming today that I'll show when it arrives is a key to the plants of Alberta. So I will use that to hopefully confirm that I've identified these properly, hopefully, or change the label if I haven't identified them properly. Okay, I'm back with a little bit of glare because the light's gone, so I'm using the overhead light now. These are the books that I'm using to identify these plants. So I've got Vascular Flora of Alberta, an illustrated guide. This is a key. So it's got keys to the major groups and their families. And so basically you're like, you look at the leaves, see if it meets all the criteria, to try and narrow down what the plant you're looking at might be. And it's got all these little illustrations. And I've never used a key like this before, but this apparently is what botanists use. And I just had a few field guides to plants in my area, and it wasn't quite doing it because they just select some of the like popular species. And I didn't know if that would be enough to help me identify some of these. So once you know their family, you know, you basically start with the family, find out what their family is, and then narrow it down to the genus, and then you go to the genus page, and then you narrow it down to the species. So yeah, that's gonna be my little experiment this winter with my mini herbaria. I also got, by the same authors, the Illustrations and Maps book, which is technically bigger, but it's got a map of the province and where within the province the plant lives, and then bigger illustrations. So that is very handy. And then one of the things I do need to do to be able to use the key better is, now can I find it in this book? Probably not. But basically I do need to learn more about what the different parts of plants are called, like what different leaf shapes are called. Oh yeah, so here we have different types of stems, different directions of stems, because it'll use this technical language in the key. So then you have to know leaves. Oh, here are leaves. The different parts of a leaf, leaf margin, and then different terminology for different types of leaf margins, leaf shapes, all sorts of things. So this is what I've got to learn first, or as I'm beginning to use the key, I'll have to look up, you know, what does that mean? What does cordate mean? Heart-shaped, sessile, that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's my new winter project. In slightly sadder news, I passed on the way home today. I got a few more plants. And then I passed on the way home a box elder maple tree that's scheduled to be cut down, which always makes me quite sad. It's not a tree I pass by a lot, but you know, every now and again. And so I took a couple of twigs off of it. The leaves are almost all on the ground at this point. We had a good hard frost last night, so it knocked a bunch of leaves off, whoosh, overnight. But yeah, these, I don't know, I'm glad I've got these, but it makes me a bit sad. So on that cheerful note, I'm going to spend the evening either learning these or probably making up a bunch more labels for the plants. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.